Hi and welcome back to the channel. Well, beef rendang. It's my equivalent of a hug in a casserole dish. This is my friend Woollandari's recipe, her family recipe actually. It tends to be a bit lighter than some of the rendangs I've seen, but it's what they use in Sumatra. So this particular recipe has got potatoes in as well as beef because she uses what else she's got laying around to kind of eke out the portion sizes for the family. It's beautiful, it's thick, it's cloying, it's comforting, and it's certainly a proper family recipe, although every single Indonesian family, I'm sure, has their own version of this particular recipe. So, finished off with toasted coconut and some lime leaves just to lift it at the end. This is a beautiful, beautiful comfort food with fork tender marinated beef, which has been cooking for a good 3 hours, so there's plenty of time for a Netflix catch-up. So thanks Woolandari, this is for you, and let's go cooking.
So here's the ingredients. Let's turn this into this.
Okay, so let's make our spice paste. So we're going to take our dry ingredients. I'm going to take out the dried walnuts because those actually give a little bit of oil and they tend to gum up the works. So we're going to take all of our ingredients, most of which I'm going to spill all the way around, but never mind. Pop those in. Break up my cinnamon stick. And don't forget these bits I've left on the side. And then after a few pulses, we end up with something like that, a nice fine powder. We're now going to add in our walnuts, or candle nuts if you can get hold of them, and do the same again. And when that's done, we should end up with a nice, even, smooth, little ground up mixture here, and that's going to be our flavour concentrate. So stage 2 now is to combine our nicely mixed dry powder into the lemongrass, the garlic and the ginger, and that's going to make our flavour paste. So let's grind this into a lovely, lovely smooth paste. Probably will take a few minutes, a little bit of effort, just to combine all the ingredients. And here we have our wonderfully thick, mixed, smelling beautiful, so much garlic and ginger spice paste, which is ready now, so we can do some actual cooking. So as I said, time for some cooking. I'm going to take roughly a quarter of our coconut oil. Sorry, coconut milk I should say, not coconut oil. And let that warm through in the pan. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add the curry concentrate and the shallots to this, and we're going to let that really let themselves go. We're going to let themselves blend in until it becomes a really, really thick paste, and then we're on to the next step. Here we go, it's just coming up to the boil now. So in with our concentrate, and also our shallots. We're going to combine these now, and this is where we get that beautiful, beautiful start, that sense of smell from the lemongrass, and this is where this proper spirit of Indonesia is. I learned this recipe from an Indonesian family, and this is their family recipe. One of the things I've found is that every single family has their own version of rendang, and they all swear it's the best. I've tasted many times, and to be honest with you, every single one of them has their own merits, but this is the one I'm mostly familiar with. So we're just going to let that heat through, probably for about 15 minutes. Start to let that bubble down, and we'll come back to it. I'm going to keep stirring it every now and again until we have a nice thick concentrate before we add our meats. Now, one little tip you might find is if you're not keen on all that chili heat, if you are using dried chilies, one thing I found is if you just literally rip the end, pop it open like an envelope, tap it out, basically 99% of the seeds already come out, and so you're able to have chili flavour without the chili heat. And that's why I love using dried chilies. They're so flexible in that way. For me, I love the heat, so I tend to keep the seeds in. But with some dishes, I might kind of remove 50% of them, so it's not too hot. But the good thing about the rendang is you can moderate the amount of heat with the amount of seeds based upon how many you put in. Here we go. It's reduced at least by 50%. Plus, you can see it's kind of sticking to the bottom. That's exactly what you need, which is why every now and again you need to give it a stir so it doesn't burn. But you can see how concentrated this is getting. So I'm probably going to leave this now for another couple of minutes just to make sure, well, it's as dry as I like. You want it as a really thick paste, which is, this is kind of getting there. So I'm going to give it another couple of minutes, and then it's time for it to meet the meat. So here we are, a few minutes later. Yeah, that's just how we like it now. It's a little bit wet, but it's keeping its form when we put it together. So the next step, it's time for our stewing beef. And bearing in mind, this is stewing beef. This is going to take a good 2-3 hours, in fact 2.5 to 3 hours to stew down. And a little bit unusually, not every single Indonesian recipe has potatoes, but I love potatoes in curry. And certainly the family recipe I had whatever else there was available put into the rendang as well. So I'm going to use potatoes, and we're just going to give this a good coating with that concentrate. Now everything's got a really good coating of the concentrate. It's time to add the rest of our coconut milk. Now this isn't just it, that's only the remainder of one of the cans. I've still got another one to go in. Also, with coconut milk, please make sure you get good quality. There are so many poor quality coconut milks out there where all they simply do is add coconut shavings to water, and it really isn't the same. It doesn't have the same creaminess. It's just really flavoured water. You might as well add flipping coconut water that you drink into it. So make sure you get a good quality coconut milk. Then it's not particularly expensive. So what we're going to do now is the easy bit. Now all of this is combined. I'm just going to bring this up to a gentle bubble. We're going to put a top on it, and I'm going to leave the top ajar a little bit because I want this to reduce, and it needs to be a thick, cloying curry. So this has got quite a way to go. So we're talking 2.5-3 hours. But during that time, don't leave it. Every now and again, give it a stir, because all of the solid material tends to go to the bottom, and it could burn on the burner. So give it a good stir. Make sure that it's always combined. So here we go. The curry is gently bubbling now. I'm just bringing it up to a simmer. I've partially covered it so that moisture can escape, because this is going to be a dry curry, so we really want to reduce this down. And so 2.5 hours, 3 hours, with occasional stirring so that we don't burn the bottom. It's time to go put on Netflix and catch up on your favourite shows, because now all the prep's done, you can let that go. So meanwhile, our curry is reducing down. The Netflix and Call of Duty marathon is going really well. Curry's probably got another hour or so to it. I'm just heating up another pan now. I'm going to add some desiccated coconut, and we're just going to shuffle this round, because what we're going to try and do, just going to reduce the heat a little bit, is to make some toasted desiccated coconut. I've got probably 1/5 of a cup of coconut here. And the key is, this is going to turn quite dark. And we're not talking about light caramel here, we're talking about quite dark. So this is going to take a couple of minutes. We need to keep moving this round. You can see it's starting to get darker and darker. And this is the level of kind of medium to dark brown kind of coconut that we need, because this is what we're going to sprinkle over on the curry when it's complete. So about this level of kind of medium to dark brownness is just what we need. And here we have it, what the Sumatrans would call karasik, deeply toasted coconut. It smells so beautiful in here. It smells almost like a fairground, if you can imagine walking around the fairground and having that toasted coconut and marshmallow kind of smell. That's going to be added right at the curry, right at the end of the process, which is a little way off yet. That's still bubbling away. And that's when we're going to add this, as well as our kaffir lime leaves and our tamarind paste. So here we go, the final steps. I've made sure that the meat is literally fork tender. I'm going to add in our 5 or 6 kaffir lime leaves. These are dried, so they need time to rehydrate. And we're going to add in a couple of tablespoons of tamarind paste, just to give it a little bit of sourness. Now we're going to combine these and give them a few minutes to meld together and get to know each other. And once that's done, I'm going to taste it for salt. If it's salt enough for you, that's fine. If not, we're going to add a little bit of fish sauce. That's what my friend suggested, but salt would be fine. So I've just tasted this. It does need a little bit more salt, so I'm just going to add a little bit of fish sauce, a little bit of nampla. You can add salt by all means, but hopefully this will just lift that saltiness. You can also test the heat level as well. Absolutely nothing to stop you serving on the side if you want a little bit more heat. Some crushed chilies, and that way you can get the right heat for everybody as they can add their own. Well, that's definitely hit the spot. And the last thing we need is that toasted desiccated coconut. Fold that in. I've kept a little bit back for garnish, but that's just going to add that final layer of caramelization onto the meat and onto the potatoes. And the potatoes have thickened the curry, as you can probably see, because of the starch in them. So now it's time to plate up.
So here we have it. Classic Indonesian flavours, hot, rich, unctuous. I've served it here with a side of turmeric rice and also a side of Netflix. The second one is optional, but to be honest with you, I've really caught up with the Umbrella Society. Go cook this, it's amazing. So don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and especially ding that bell. I'm probably going to go Japanese next time, which will be an experiment for all of us, so you probably don't want to miss that.